Some say it's all about 1925 and beyond. The podcast. KC 100 year celebration with Pete A. Kennedy and Marlon A. Kennedy.
Welcome. It's the 1925 and Beyond podcast. I'm your co-host, Pete A. Kennedy. I'm here with big brother co-host Marlon A. Kennedy, and we have another special one for you. Oh my gosh, you can't wait to see and hear from this special guest. But you know, we always got to drop the credits. I went to Kingston College between the years of 1992 to 1995. I played calls 93, 94, 194, and 95. We moved on to Manning Cup. But again, it's not about us. It's about the guests. So let me get it moving over to big brother co-host Marlon Kennedy.
Hi, thank you, Pete. Welcome everyone again to another episode of 1925 and Beyond. Similar to Pete, I went to KC, but I played cricket from 1986 to 1993 and captain at all levels. So today, our guest, another special guest that we have, another esteemed, distinguished old boy. I must say that, in our efforts to populate our list, the more we interviewed and got the stories of other old boys, they speak about other old boys. And
yes,
our guest today was mentioned in high regards by Richard, who heads the Old Boys Association.
Yes.
And he said, no, man, you have to talk to Marlon Campbell, man.
To.
Principal of St. Catherine, away, I say. You have to hear this man, I think. So we reached out, we got the contact details, I reached out, and now we have here with us today Marlon Campbell, who is principal of St. Catherine High School. Marlon, welcome.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you so very much. The pleasure is mine. And I just really want to start by saying I'm truly honored that I have been invited to speak to us. I'm really elated. Thank you so very much for the invite.
We appreciate it, Marlon. And in true fashion, most old boys here are appropriately dressed. And it's good to see you today in your purple and white tie. For those, for the
yes.
For the purposes
Could have been nothing else.
Excellent. So just persons to be aware, today this recording is actually on the Friday of Boys Champs, the penultimate day. And we all know that is the day, if any one day that everybody wears their school colors, no matter which school you go, which way you work, you wear your school colors.
Yes.
And it's good to see that
the
principal of St. Catherine High has made a statement.
A strong statement.
Thank you, Marlon. So in true fashion, Marlon, we always ask our distinguished guests to tell us their story, and we ask to start off by telling us, a bit about yourself before KC.
Of course, as you know, my name is Marlon Campbell, born and bred south of Kingston College to a North Street, that is Southside. Persons who know about Southside, it's a rough community. Mm-hmm. And one thing is certain, though, is that the persons from Southside always speak glowingly about Kingston College. They want their children, their boys to attend Kingston College. If girls could have attended, they would have attended. Mm-hmm. And so at about 10 years old, I learned about Kingston College for the first time. I heard some men on the corner, hoodlums, if I may say, what is true, but it's the passion that they have for the school. And they've always put the school on high. And so I listened, I'll never forget, I listened on a corner and these guys were speaking about Kingston College. So one day what I did at 11 years old, I'm going to be using some jargons now. There is a little gully that you could, but I understand the community well. So I went across East Queen Street, walked through the gully and found myself just observing and analyzing the space. Actually, I didn't know about Ellison Road at the time. And so I was there looking at 2A North Street and I spent some time observing the space. And then I went back home and I said to my mom, Mom, I want to attend Kingston College. And then she asked, my mom is a higgler at the time. Boy, I really lift my hat to her. Single parent. She worked very hard at the time, assiduously, just to make it happen for her 3 children. And on entering the space, I really want to say this though, but on entering the space, I knew immediately that I could not be worthless. On entering the honored walls of Kingston College, I knew I couldn't be worthless. And I use the word worthless because at the time, the role models were very few and scarce. And so there was nothing to look up to. But then on entering the space, Kingston College became the beacon of hope. Kingston College became the space where for 5 years I was nurtured, I was cared for, and I am so passionate I'm speaking about it because I say to people, people just don't understand why Fortisans as they are. Initially, I thought I would have started at 2A North Street.
Oh.
And then I was informed, no, you are 3 years elsewhere on Ellison Road. And so I went to that space and I observe and I look, and of course, every single thing in your life becomes purple.
Principal Campbell, not to cut you, right? We heard another KC boy share the similar story, how, so excited to go to the school and found out that there was Melbourne. But for our listeners and for our viewers, I want to make this very clear. You heard about Kingston College from the streets of what we would call Southside Rear Town.
That's correct.
You visited the school on your own as a little lad or as a
Yes,
lad
that's
to
correct.
see it, and you only thought there was the North Street campus.
That's correct.
And that's your initial journey started right there from just hearing it from the corners of Rear Town.
That's correct.
But before you
Wow.
answer even more, Marlon, you said you
Wow.
went there and you observed. What observations influenced you to say this is it? You just looked at it. What was it?
And that's a very, very, very good question. So first of all, on entering the space, I recognize on a Saturday, I mean, there were so many activities taking place in the space. And I wonder, because you say I would not have been exposed to high school life. I'm coming from Holy Trinity Primary. And I'm saying, but on a Saturday, why so many students are at school?
Yeah.
And then guess what now? I tell you, I attended the Holy Trinity Cathedral. But the truth is, I wasn't really paying attention to next door. So now after the Saturday, the Sundays follow. So after church, I was over there just observing, and there was just a plethora of activities just taking place.
And so you started in 1980.
That's correct.
Good. So tell us about that part, Tell me about the KC journey part, the crux of the matter now. What happened now when you step in 1980? Not at North Street, but down at Elliston Road.
Yes, man. And I entered the space immediately. Let me tell you, and I'm saying this, every time I talk about it, I will start by saying what I am today is as a result of the beautiful space. And so you enter the space with approximately 1,000, it would have been about 800 plus boys in that space. And immediately we became friends. Up to this day, these boys are my friends. And the vibe, there is a richness of thought. And I've never seen it before, because remember, the base argument is that I am from Southside. You understand? I'm from Southside, where people really don't speak life. People don't speak to build. People always, it's so depressing just to even listen to some people on the corner. But once you go there, it's like you move into a different sphere. Life, it's like immediately there was growth. And so Melbourne was about friendship. It was about understanding the importance of academia. It was no about understandings were clearly set when I entered Melbourne. The boys were very, very competitive, very competitive in terms of academics. And so you can't afford to do badly. And honestly, there were some really bright boys. And KC at the time, I'm not certain what exists now, but there was a rich mix. You have a few upper class, you have some in the middle, many middle class students, and then you have the lower class. In terms of where we are from, various echelons. I want to say that clearly. And what was happening because of that rich mix, we were able to learn from each other. It was a massive melting pot. We were able to learn from each other. And for the first time, I was exposed to persons who are able to do more than a little inner city boy can do for the first time. And it's a valuable lesson because what it says clearly that, let me tell you, the sky is the limit. And so all of that I learned from just entering the hollowed walls of Ellison.
Wow. So whilst you were there, because you said you did 5 years, were you participating in any extracurricular activities?
All right, let me tell you though, and this is very, very important. There's absolutely no way you can enter the space and don't try to do something.
All right.
Boy, every
right.
time I tried track, I could make it. I tried chess, I could make it. I tried table tennis, I could make it. But I really did enjoy myself. I mean, Kiss is a powerhouse in most disciplines. And so the boys were really, really ready, superstars in their various disciplines. And so I really did try. I really did try. I must tell you that.
And that's good. And you know, that's something that's, I don't want to say it's unique with KC. It's special with KC that we have a lot of us, you know, coming from various backgrounds, having participated in other sports and other things. And when you come to KC, so many times you think you're big cheese, or you know, and when you come across someone who say, no, sir, me not ready.
That one bit.
But it does not discourage you though from participating and continuing to even support the sport. You know, because someone will not make the team and then that's it. But you still have avid fans and followers of whichever sport that you love.
Yeah.
I really want to say this though, because I never made the track team. But today I am so passionate about track and field. I just travel all over the world to watch it. I went to the Olympics, I went to World Games, I went to U20s, just because of the experience at KC.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. And even with table tennis, right throughout my time at KC, I played table tennis. I wasn't able to make the team, but I was playing with all the boys who were in the team.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make you a dud. You know, you're even more inspired to support and to give the kind of energy which the school needs.
And that is good to hear. That's very good to hear, Marlon. So another point we want to get from you with your story now. Having been exposed to KC for the 5 years, you know, what were the memorable occasions for those 5 years that you were there? And then also, was there any individual or group of persons that left a lasting impression on you for the time at KC?
I'm going to be sounding very odd with my experiences. Mine is a little different from the average person. But I really want to start with number one, the march on a Friday to National Stadium.
Yeah. I just passed it, man. Just passed it.
Yes, firmly etched in my mind. I forget it. It speaks to camaraderie. It speaks to support. It speaks to resilience and tough-mindedness. Embedded in that march are so many tenets. You know, embedded in a single march. You know, a noise being made is more than that. I mean, so many formation would have taken place during that walk from North Street to the National Stadium. I will never, ever forget that. Secondly, I will say it like this. From early in my life, I recognize that KC is a philosophy. Very, very early. While I have friends at school, most times I was just looking on the past students and their frequent visits. And this one is Dr. something, that one is an engineer, that one is an attorney, and I will look on. Honestly, I was just so inspired. And so these people will visit, and especially, I remember, you know, because in second form, Garth Gale was my PE teacher. No, Garth Gale is my colleague at Charlemont, president of J3As. And when we have these people in the space and they speak the language that is the KC language, then you know you're going to be even more inspired. But those two areas to me, the present of the alumni and giving talks, motivating, inspiring. Let me tell you something. I to this day, to this day, I hold on to those memories.
Yes.
Just amazing.
Excellent. Excellent. So the second part was, was there any individual or group of persons that left a lasting impression on you? I know you spoke about Ian Wilkinson.
Yes,
Mhm.
I did. But Stephen Vassiani. So
Oh, yes.
the thing with me, right? The thing with me when I enter the space, all right, I wanted to know so much more about Kingston College. When I entered in 1980, I purchased all the magazines up to way down in the 70s. All the magazines that they have, I purchased just to know and understand the history.
Yeah.
And Stephen Vassiani, because of his brilliance and
Yes.
because you know he was a Rhodes Scholar,
Yes.
and yeah, because of his brilliance, I was kind of intrigued and really wanted to know more about him. Because at the time, 7-1s, I think, and 2-2s was no ordinary feat. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And so he was like a massive motivator without even knowing it, by just knowing about him and his academic prowess.
Wow.
So Wilkinson was more when I was a part of the space, and Wilkinson was kind of upright, kind of a very strong student, very bright student, and I knew that and I saw that, and I was again inspired.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've heard of Steve and how much, KC old boys, he's like you said, inspired, and they've never met him. Some of them,
Right.
it's unique to hear you actually purchase magazines from
Right.
past
Yeah.
to earn to that history. And when you say stuff like that, or when you share not even stuff, but just your story like that, that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about Kingston College that bonds us together. And this is why 1925 and beyond, for this 100-year celebration, is doing this to let the world know that, yeah, call us all you want to call us, but there's a bond that KC leaves within individuals, that these stories will let you guys know why and who we are.
So with that, go ahead, Marlon. You're going to say something.
To me, Kingston College is like in school, the hidden curriculum where people exhibit a certain behavior and the students will pattern. But the persons, like the teachers, they do it unknowingly.
Yeah.
Kingston College is the epitome of that. Kingston College is one big hidden curriculum. Embedded in the life, the philosophy of Kingston College is a kind of never die attitude, a kind of resilience, a kind of profoundness that the average mind cannot understand. People say it, and people question Kingston College because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
And because some persons, and not even jokingly, is it the water? Why is it that my child is 11 years old? Yeah, I mean, he has not entered the school yet, but his room is painted purple.
Yes.
It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah, people don't understand it.
But Marlon, as you were making your comment a while ago, and you were about to say curriculum, you slightly stuttered. I thought you was going to say is a kind of corruption, but I'm glad you said curriculum. I'm glad you said curriculum.
I know, man. I never dare.
But the transition now, Marlon, because you did 5 years. So what happened then after that? Because having done 5 years means that you did not move on to sixth form.
That's correct.
So talk us through that part now. We're leading into the post-student life at KC.
It is something that I desperately wanted to do, but I kind of understood my conditions. So there was an opportunity at 17 years old to become an assistant teacher in a prep school.
Okay.
Yeah, which means money and college and
Yes.
And I took that opportunity where I spent 3 years, and at 20 years old I entered JAMAICA Teachers College. At the time they offered a diploma, so I got a diploma in math education, and then I moved on to university.
Which prep school you started at with the assistant?
Covenant prep
okay.
school. Yes, Covenant prep school was a brand new prep school at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you teaching any particular subject? What were your responsibilities there?
No, well, it's primary education. So it's basically all the areas. All the areas. You have to be, working in all the areas. At 17 years old, but again, just for emphasis, I was the assistant teacher.
And teacher, yes.
Right. So I went to JAMAICA to do math education.
So what was the experience like as an assistant teacher at 17?
Yeah.
Wow. Let me tell you something though, because it's important that I say this, because I'm supposed to be an engineer. In my head, that's what I wanted to do. The very fact that I got that early exposure, and you recognize that you have the ability to speak life into children and to give them content so that they can be smart and they can be wise and become critical thinkers. The very fact that I found out that I have the ability to do that, I mean, engineering was out of my mind.
Yeah.
Yes, it was out of my mind.
I was just about to ask Marlon, because I said that, you took it as an employment opportunity, but now has blossomed and developed into a career.
That's correct.
So it's really good to hear that as well. Yes. So to see you go along that path. So you went to JAMAICA and then went to UWI.
That's correct.
What did you study at UWI?
Okay, so what I did my degree. Remember, JAMAICA offered only a diploma. Right, and so I went to UWI for the other 2 years to do the degree in math education. And then, interestingly, I go back to JAMAICA to do the master's in math education. Right. So
were you teaching at any point in time, UWI?
Yeah, so after JAMAICA, my first job as a qualified trained teacher was Holy Trinity High School, where I spent 7 years.
Okay. Right back down at KC.
Pardon?
I said right back down to next to the school.
Just next door. That's correct. Yeah, just next door. I'm happy that I spent 7 years there, because to me it was a rich experience. And sometimes, persons will say, "Boy, brother, why you never go to the college?" But Holy Trinity at the time, I entered the space. I must say this though, because sometimes inner city these communities have their purpose,
Yes.
Being an inner city man, I was able to get the students at Holy Trinity to respond favorably.
There was a connection.
People could get them precisely.
Right down the street you come from, sir.
That too.
Down the street you come
precisely.
from.
That too. So I would know the mothers, I would know the fathers, and I would know the students themselves. So I was able to get them to respond favorably. So I spent 7 years there, but knowing me, I was always very hungry for growth, because I am from a very poor family, and one of the things I really wanted to achieve is to get my mom to reach a certain level where I could be able to say, "Well,
couldn't stop there."
Precisely.
Couldn't stop there.
Precisely. And so there was a brand new school all the way in Trelawney, Holland High School, all the way in Trelawney. They put out an ad for a vice principal. I applied, I got the position, and then I moved to the country. I just packed up shop and moved to the country. And then I made a lateral movement back into Kingston now, because Campion College recruited me.
No, I don't want you to skip past Holland High.
Okay, all right, sorry.
So because that's a VP, you're moving from a teacher to more administrative and a larger leadership role. Talk to me about Holland partner. You can't skip past that.
Right, Holland again is an inner city school, brand new school, in a community named Zion, and Zion doesn't mean glorious. It doesn't mean glorious at all. Most of the children couldn't read. Again, boy, thank you, Father. I went on there, was a man on a mission. Pauline Reed was the principal, and I can tell you, we forged an amazing partnership as a brand new school to help the children and to develop the community. Because let me tell you, it was a rough community, and they put the school down in a little corner down in our community. But I can tell you, there was no great appreciation, because what was not happening, and I understand why the government will do the things they do. When you put a school in a space of that nature, what takes place, is like osmosis.
Mhm.
Information, knowledge, growth, communication starts to do this from the
Mhm.
school out into the wider community. Because
Yeah.
the children are now learning and they are going out and they're speaking wisdom, knowledge, they're speaking to people, and then the community becomes better. I
Yeah.
can tell you some of the things I don't want to say here, but I remember
Mhm.
when I went there, I spent 3 years there. I remember when I went there, what was existing in the space. And in under 3 years, we were able to transform over 1,000 students. We were now able to say, okay, this is not how it must be done. Because to me, without speaking disparagingly about the kids, but the reality and the truth is, the kids were abnormal. They were, they were, they were
They were brought up in difficult circumstances.
precisely,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we were able to transform these children in under 3 years by enforcing, getting them to understand, showing, modeling all the tenets to have them formed. And so the parents now understood that you can't come through the gate of the school in a tights and a spaghetti strap.
Come on, principal. But hold on, no. I want to make sure that there's something you said that would connect, right? You said going to that school, you understood that sometimes the government geographically puts
That's
a
correct.
school in a specific space, knowing that based on the learning that may happen, the infiltration that takes place in the community. That's powerful, man. That's powerful.
It is, it is. And let me tell you something. I don't know if that can be read anywhere, but it is something I observed. And so we sometimes as critics, why would the government do that? But it has a
It's
really
reason and
solid,
purpose. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, sir, that's powerful. That's powerful. I'm in education. I deal with a lot of schools, and I've never heard that before. I like to keep it real. I've never heard that before. So I'm gonna start look geographically at where
Yes, it does
schools
work. It
out
does
there set
work.
up.
It does
Yeah.
work. Yes.
So,
Wow. Thank you for
so,
that.
so you moved now to Campion. What attracted you? What
No,
caused
he
you to
said
make that
Campion
shift?
recruited him. I remember him hear that.
Yeah, and I say that because
Okay.
I was in my office one day and from the sound of the person, I figure it was a white man who called me. And Campion is a Jesuit school, and so most of the time the Jesuits will have, and most of the Jesuits, their base is really in Boston. And so he called me and he said he heard about me and he wants me to be a part of the Campion family. And so I asked in what position, and he said vice principal. And then I said to him, it doesn't make sense. I'm a vice principal here. Why do
Yeah.
I need to become a vice principal? And
Yeah.
then he laughed and we had a conversation. But what was most important to me is that at the time I have a wife and my extended family was still in Kingston. And
Okay.
I really wanted to come back to Kingston to my
Yes.
family.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
hence I made the move.
Yes.
Yeah.
I made the move. I came back to Kingston.
What year was that when you moved? Back?
I came to Campion 2007 to 2009,
Okay.
right? And then the St. Catherine High School opportunity came, hence the reason I left Campion. But I want to speak about Campion a little.
Yes, please.
For 2 years I spent at Campion. I thought I was out of place. And I say it without any hesitation because I'm coming from a Holy Trinity and I'm coming from a Holland High School. And I think I was better able to help poor people's children, children who are struggling, children who don't understand the importance of academia and getting a
Mhm.
sound education. At Campion, as a VP, I had one class, and I will never forget. I will never forget a student, and I know she'll be listening to this. She sleeps in every class. She sleeps in every class, most class. There was a complaint coming to me, both in my class and coming to me from other
Other
teachers. But
teachers.
she was able to get 8 1s. When I saw that, I said, honest to God, I feel as if I'm being wasted here.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
Because these kids to me are intrinsically motivated. You're committed to a child
Mhm.
might be sleeping in your class,
Mhm.
but the culture at Campion is they call it extras. So
Yeah.
after Campion, everybody spirals all over the place to go to
Yeah.
various other classes.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
recognize that. So when the opportunity came at St. Catherine High School, A better position. I jumped at it and I
Wow.
embraced it with
Wow.
both hands, and it's 16 years after.
Wow.
So tell us,
I
talk
was
to us about that part now. We reached St. Catherine now. Talk to us now.
So St. Catherine High School, as I expected it to be, but a lot of persons were just looking at me moving from Campion to St. Catherine. So they thought that is the experience I had, the Campion experience, and no other experience. And so persons would have approached me and said, boy, sir, you come from Campion. It must be a culture shock. I must say to us that when I started at St. Catherine High School, it was a little different. It was a little different. But once you set clear rules and regulations, I tell you, the children follow. The children follow. And what a lot of people don't know is that at St. Catherine High School, we have some brilliant students.
Yes.
We have some brilliant students like in any other spaces.
And before you move on there, Marlon, because, you know, we had a brief discussion earlier. I want you to point out that fact about the size of the school and what that means in comparison to the region. So they know the powerhouse that you manage, what you're managing.
Thank you, Marlon. Right. So for most persons who have immersed themselves in academia or you know anything about Jamaican schools, persons will immediately know that St. Catherine High School is the largest single-shift high school in the English-speaking Caribbean, which means you have over 2,500 children on the campus at the same time, not a shift school, at the same time. So it's a massive infrastructure. I remember once I had some visitors from overseas, and it was at the end of the day, and so school, the children were now coming out, and the gentleman stood in awe. So he stood in awe. So I said, what's the problem? And he said, "Go picnic. Go picnic. Go picnic." We basically said, boy, so many children.
So much in there.
Like a sea of children.
Like a swarm. Yeah, you know, like.
Yeah.
So, Principal Campbell, you said you have over 2,000 kids on your campus daily?
2,005.
And yeah, 2,500 daily, every single day.
No, in my soccer group recently, somebody posted something, which primary school is the largest in the Caribbean. And the two names that came up was I think something St. Catherine, something around that area, and Maypen. And you know, just kind of when you throw out that number, you know, it kind of goes back to that. But I didn't know the school was so large. No, I mean, I tell everybody, I left Jamaica 1997. Most of my livelihood or growing up is in the States. But you know, I have some connection there. Marlon still lives in the island, but I had no clue, sir, that school held that many students on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
I take my hat off to you, sir.
Yes. On a daily basis.
So another important point for me, because I've asked persons in your position, from the time when you started as an administrator at Holland High to now you're 16 plus years at St. Catherine, as an administrator, a lot of it depends a lot on your leadership style. How has your leadership style evolved over those years from where you were at Holland to where you are now?
Thanks. Very good question. Because one of the things about leadership, as you know, you can't be static. If you're static, you're going to be left behind. And so my learning experience is like a massive explosion just taking place, just like the sun is just keep on evolving. And so I am just renewing myself with each learned experience. Meaning the Holy Trinity experience is different from the Holland High School experience, is different from the Campion College experience. And so there's a massive amalgamation taking place at St. Catherine High School. There's a pool of ideas and a pool of experience and exposure, which I would have had to better able to lead this space. And I say it because even when I entered in 2009, after leaving Campion, I was more of I'm going to use a term. I was a very rugged leader, and persons might turn up their eyes, but I needed to be.
At that time.
Children were a little rough. They sometimes operated as if they didn't understand what school is about. And so I was a little rough. And when I say rough, I mean rough with love. Because I really try, I believe, because my philosophy is as an educator, first thing is that you must love the children. And once you love them, secondly, every single thing will fall into place.
Yes. 100%.
And so while I was rough, I always love the children. I always reason with them. I always try to get them to understand the importance of academia, because I believe from my heart that it is academia which will change the landscape. It is academia which will change your life. It is academia which will change how you think and how you reason and how you respond to situations. And so at the school, most persons would have left St. Campion High School. If I'm on the road and there's a shout, usually shout is academia. Because that's my word. Because it's something that I enforce.
Yes.
And try to get the kids to understand.
Yeah.
But the support at St. Catherine High School is just wonderful. And it took some high level of work. And nowadays, the stakeholders have come on board in a very serious and profound way. And when I talk about stakeholders, I'm talking particularly the alumni associations. We right now have, and I'm going to say it, we have a very, very expensive project. We're building a state-of-the-art performing arts center. And I can tell you, $250 million. And I'm saying it because the responses coming from the alumni association with their help, with their expertise, have been profound. Trust me, and it's very important that I say. Very, very important. Yeah.
Look up yourself, St. Catherine alumni. Yes. Yes.
So there's I'm going to put you on the spot now, Marlon, because you're the principal of St. Catherine High. You're decked out in your KC colors. How do you manage that, your continued participation and contribution with KC?
All right, so one of the things is, and which is clearly understood, I'm very respectful to St. Catherine High School. I just want to set that precedence. Very respectful. So when I'm in that space, when I'm among alumni and stakeholders of the space, I am very respectful. But one of the things that persons do understand is that I too went to a high school.
Yes,
they understand that clearly. And for argument's sake, my classmates are champs. They will see me in the purple and white, and for years they're cussing me out that I need to wear something purple. And I will say, guys, you have to understand. You have to understand. There's no way I can do that. You understand? And so, interestingly, everybody knows, even the grade 7 kids, I don't know how, but once you come in, sir, I didn't know that you attended KC. So everybody knows. And so it is something, bro, you know, once you're a Fortisan, you're a Fortisan. And it is, being a Fortisan is like a bushfire on a hill. It cannot be hidden.
I like it.
That's a good one. I'm taking note of that one.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it. So you know, thank you very much, Marlon. It was indeed a pleasure. You know, Pete and I said this all a while, and it's no joke. You know, these stories are very interesting, and it makes my heart feels overwhelmed with joy when I see our old boys, you know, contributing outside of KC as well, and to other national interests as well, in particular education of our youths. So, you know, I want to wish you all the best, Marlon. So, in true fashion as well, we ask our guests to wrap up by doing 2 things. We'd say 3, but the third one is out of your jurisdiction. So the first thing is that we ask that you wish KC happy 100, and the second is to leave a positive message. The third would have been if you were a businessman to leave your business accolades and so forth, but we don't want nothing with St. Catherine High. No disrespect, St. Catherine.
Oh, yeah, understand.
Forum now. Principal Campbell understand.
Yes.
So just to wish happy 100, and then the positive message for the current student body, staff, and everybody that will be watching this later.
Okay, so I will start with the second one because to the students or especially the students who are present at the institution, Kingston College. I want to say to you, and I'm looking at the camera, that you must seek at all times to understand the Fortis spirit. You must understand the importance of resilience and tough-mindedness. Fortis, which simply means the brave. What it says to us is that at all times there must be an inner fire which will cause us to do our best in all things. And I talk about tough-mindedness because the brave may fall but never yield. Simple means that many times we are going to fall, but we must never ever stay down. You must always get up and fight again to move on. Secondly, adaptability. We're living in a fast changing world. Information is being changed. The information today is different from the information tomorrow, different from the information some other days. What I'm asking us to do is to make sure that we stay and keep abreast of what is happening in the world. I'm asking us to be mindful. Just don't be static. Know what is happening in the world. Keep reading. And when I say information is important, you don't have to be going to school all the times, but reading is very important. Reading, if you have to read a book, if you have to read a Gleaner, Observer, if you need to know what is happening in the world around you, you need to know. In other words, I'm just saying you need to be informed. It's very important. And finally, gentlemen, the Fortis spirit cannot be learned. You know, earlier I said it's a philosophy, it's a lifestyle. All you have to do is just immerse yourselves in the space. Immerse yourselves in the space and allow the space to carry you. In other words, you're going to be obedient to the tenets. You're going to be obedient to the utterances of the school leadership. And once you do that, I can tell you the sky will be the limit. I speak as a person who have immersed myself in the space, and I have seen the positive it has done for me. So it's very, very important. And to the staff, teachers, administrators, alumni, all persons who have been a part of the Fortis spirit, I look on, and I'm very, very grateful. We are celebrating 40 years. That's the 1985, the graduates of 1985. We are celebrating 40 years. And we're in the true spirit, we are going to be celebrating. But I'm saying to us, supporters, stakeholders, that keep on doing the great job you're doing. Fortisans are pleased, we are proud, and we give you our support. We will give you our support whenever we can. So we're asking that you continue to do a wonderful job. And 1925 to 2025, that is 100 years. It's 100 years of excellence. And let me just say something, that most schools in Jamaica want to be like KC. Honestly, most persons want to be like a KC alumnus. And it is so because persons understand the Fortis spirit. It is 100 years of excellence. It is being dynamic for 100 years. It is ceaseless high energy operation for 100 years. It is 100 years of putting out stalwarts who have immersed themselves in sports, in academia, in government leadership all over the world. And so KC is just an amazing space. And I really believe from my heart that it is next to none.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marlon. Really appreciate it. Pete.
My gosh. The man who heard about the great institution from not just the street corners of Raytown, then journeyed through the gullies and had an observation that changed his life. Went from an assistant teacher to 2 VPs to now leading the largest high school within the Caribbean region. I'm giving you a new name today, Mr. Marlon Campbell, the Gaza Principal. But in much good fashion, I must say, when you look at somebody who says, I wanted to be an engineer, but just got a little taste of what his true talent is, and take that to teaching and changing lives around the world. Sir, we say it all the time. I believe after all of this, I'll have a permanent smile where I'm going to need a fellow Fortis, Dr. Garth McDonald, to fix my cheeks because they only get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And they are more unique and more unique and more unique. And that is why you only get it right here on 1925 and Beyond podcast with me.
As you end there, Pete, Marlon needs to tell us what they call him at school, because you call him the Gaza Principal, and that them call him. Marlon, please just inform the general public what is your nickname, what is your alias.
I think at High School, my alias is Ground God.
Ground God.
Yeah, Ground God. Pete, that's close enough.
That's very close. What? Okay. I'm not a youth, so the youth them have a way to put it in a different thing. Yeah, but that hit it right on the nail. And when I hear your story, I must say, as a speaker, I will share your story across the world because it comes back to talent and it comes back to your why. And as much as, I have 2 boys and Marlon got 2 girls and they both went to Campion and I've went to the Campion, graduation and all of that, I could see where your fitting roots is where God wanted you to be right there at St. Catherine High School. So, man, keep up the awesome work. I am so honored. I look forward to visiting the school one day just to see how we could add some value. But like you said, Kingston College is like a bush on fire on a hill, cannot be missed. And because of that, we want to say on behalf of us here, thank you, we appreciate you. But you start it and we end every podcast with the greatest motto that came out of the greatest institution. And you start it, but we always end with it. And Marlon, how does it go? Fortis,
cadere,
non-potest. The brave may fall. But never
yield.
Walk good, Principal. We appreciate you. Thank you. And see you next on the next session for 1925 and beyond. Cheers.